The open hand, basically, you're going to have it so that it's holding something. Today I'm going to show you how to rough and block it in so you won't get to the point where it ends up completely like what my hand looks like this with it closed. But there's tricks to do to be able to make it so that you can get your hand started so it's made like this at this point. So basically it's going to look a lot like an oven mitt at first until you cut and separate it down. But first, when you're sculpting this to get it started, you're going to start with a bigger block of clay. You need to start again with your ruler to make sure that you know your sizes for what you're trying to do for your dimensions, even before you get your block of clay out, to make sure that you have enough clay to cut away. Does that make sense? Alright, so the first thing, for length, we're starting this off. Tip my finger down to my watch, which is a good rough indicator on how far down I need to make my block. So that looks like 8 inches. Guess what? My block of clay, just barely over 8 inches tall. So I know that I have just enough material to be able to make my hand kind of like an oven mitt shape, to be able to rough it in. At this point, again, we're not going to really worry too much about the thumb. If I do have some extra clay, I could try to worry about getting that on there, but we're definitely concerned about the fat part, so that the shape how my hand goes down, and without that right now, but then the rest of it to get it cut in by cutting away at the block. So the thickness of my hand too, I have to pay attention to how fat my hand gets down here at the bottom. The thickness of my hand down here at the bottom is 3 inches. So the thinnest spot up here at my top of my hand for my fingers is about a 1/2 inch. So it goes from basically a 1/2 inch, tapers down to a 3 inch for the thickest part of my hand for this part of my hand this way. Then for the width of my hand this way, to that line where my thumb was, it's about 4 1/4 inches across my hand from here to here. Does that make sense? And my block needs to be at least 4 1/2 inches. Look at that. So that's perfect for the amount of material I have here to be able to cut away. When you're working with stone, you really have to worry about that, because of course you're not going to take time to do a subtractive sculpture of the stone and then realize after the fact your hand wouldn't even fit on there. So you need to make sure you have enough material when you start to even start cutting away, to make sure that you have enough to make it so you can actually make the project. Okay, this was cut from one of the blocks out of the boxes that's out in the other room. It does have the overlap onto the other block to be able to get enough material. So in order to take care of that before I even start, which I was doing a little bit earlier, which was stirring up dust, I was taking it and dropping it some to kind of pack all that together to make sure that the two separate pieces are connected together, so it starts to get rid of that line, and so that I've dropped it enough times you can barely tell where that line was from where the block was not a connected block from when it was taken out of the clay machine at the company. All right. So it's saying that, I know that up in here then, the top part, I'm going to start off towards the middle, and I'm going to mark a little bit thicker than a 1/2 inch in the very middle of the block. So I'm going to go like this and mark where I'm going to be here, down along the middle of my hand to figure out about where it hits to an inch. It looks like it's down about 3 inches from the top. It gets an inch thick. I'm going to measure like this, make a mark, then I'm going to try to make sure that I realize an inch thick is about that wide down here. So I'm marking on the block. I'm going to mark down to where it gets an 1.5 inches thick, which looks like it's about another 2 inches down from that. And down at the bottom, then it quickly gets to 3 inches thick in the thickest part of the meat of my hand. So I'm going to make this a little wider, and then it's going to get really wide down here along the bottom of the meat of my hand. So I'm going to sketch that on there lightly so I know right where I'm trying to cut that off to get that started. So when I pull the wire across there on what I'm trying to do to get that roughed in. So then I'll twirl this around so you guys can see what I've got going on here. So there's my start for this line. This is how my hand's going to get cut out. So the meat of my hand is going to make it so that it's going to kind of line up with that when I'm cutting that out. Does that make sense? All right, so I'm going to take the block, turn it back around, and then on the actual line that I started, I'm going to cut that down to rough that in for my shape. So we're going to be using the wire tools again to get this roughed in. I'm going to get rid of all that. I know I don't need that. That on going back in the clay machine. Then on this side, I'm going to take and cut that down that line. like that. So I know right now I'm not going to need any of this. So at this point, this is about the profile of my hand for the thickness this way. From the meat to the top of my fingers. Does that make sense? Pretty close? Yeah, it's in the right neighborhood. I'll have some working to do with it to shave off a little bit more. Then the next thing I need to pay attention to is the shape that my hand is this way. So if I put my hand up against here this way, I could even take and lay my hand down on there and cheat. And then use that and even trace to see where my fingers and everything would be. All right, so at this point, I've got this. So that would be basically the roughed in thing of my hand, the shape of it.